Okay, so now that you have it mapped out, okay, now I start adding in the windows. Now with this, I know there's a bunch of windows. I do not expect you or want you to do every single window. Especially some of them are going to be so small that these really just look like lines after a while. And that's really not going to help anybody. So I'm just going to focus on like this area right here. Okay, now because there's a difference of how I want these windows to be done. And I'm not counting out how many, I'm counting out that you're doing correctly. So like, see how these windows, okay, if you trace them, these are just rectangles. Same with these ones, okay? Because these are the side of the building that's like facing us, so it's flat. It's not angled, it's not going back into space, okay? These windows, however, are going back into space. And it's kind of a way to know, like, if if it's back in space or not. If you see the side of the building has these angled lines, then the windows will also have those same angled lines. Okay, see the tops of the windows, this part here, these all angles are going towards the vanishing point. Okay, these are not. Okay, if you trace them, these lines are they're all just, you know, true horizontal and true verticals. Okay, that's how you know. All right, so if one window, and also if one window is going to be a regular rectangle, all of them are. If this one's going back into space, all of them are going back into space, okay? So let me just go ahead and do this one because this is the one that I really want to focus on. Now, I know there's a million windows here. Slight exaggeration. I would just say, just to fill up the space, because I have much space on my paper, and then I would just say, let's just like 4 windows, just enough to fill up the space, but not enough just to drive yourself crazy, okay? And there's 2 sets of windows, so you're gonna do a top and a bottom. So we'll still do that because that way it's enough room to fill up the space, okay? So you still have to fill up the space to make it make sense, but we're not going crazy. So I'm gonna put this like little decoration part in here that splits up the windows. So I'm gonna go ahead, and it's about halfway through, okay? This is still going back to my vanishing point, and I'm just gonna make a line. Okay, so I'm just gonna split up the windows first, and then now I'm gonna do my windows. Okay, so because I'm gonna do them at the same time. So I'm gonna do, because these lines are still true vertical lines. Okay, I can use my ruler or a straight edge and see that they are still vertical lines. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna do these ones. The vertical lines are still the same. They're not going back into space. I'm just gonna line up one side of them. So they're gonna put a window here and a window right below it. Okay, and then I need to end this window. So I just move it over a little bit, and I'll make another vertical line to end it. Okay, the lines, the top and bottom, those are the lines that are going to be angled back towards the vanishing point. Okay, so we're gonna add those all in later. If you do it this way, it makes it so much easier. Okay, so a little space because these are between the windows. Another vertical line. Move it over and try and do about the same amount of space, but I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, and then it is going, well, it's true, it is going to be going back into space. So each time you make a window, it is going to get a little smaller. Okay, you don't have but you don't want to go too, don't exaggerate it too much. Okay, because you want to still see the windows. Get a little space between the windows. Okay, I probably should make my lines a little longer here, but I can always adjust that later. All right, so okay, so I'll make this space a little smaller. You can see where these are where the windows are going to be. A little space again between the windows. Much more room. I still got plenty of room. Okay. Okay, so that's 4. Maybe I may have enough room to do 5. Yeah, I have enough room to do 5. Okay, so that's between the window, and I have room to do 1 more before I completely run out of room. So just do it until it fills, really honestly, until it fills up the space. Okay, I should have went a little further down on these ones. Okay, I can always adjust it more later. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the tops of all these windows at the same time. So if you do it like this, it doesn't take so long. You're not going to sit there like, I have to draw out all of these windows. It's like if you do them all together like this, it really doesn't take that long. So if you want to, you could just draw a line all the way through and then erase between the windows. Or if you want, you just skip it and just do it like this. Okay, so you can see I'm just drawing a line, and this is between the windows, so I can skip it. if you draw it out all the way and then just go back and erase, or whichever easier, it's the same, really the same difference. Okay, so I did all the tops of windows and they're all going back to the vanishing point. Okay, and then I can just go through and just erase those little lines that are sticking up. Okay, so see how this line is pretty much parallel with that line. Okay, now this line down here, I'm gonna get, which I didn't make some of my lines long enough, but we'll do about like right here. So I can see my windows a little bit better in this way. I'm just gonna skip until I do that. Okay, I can just touch up my lines as I go here. Okay, so I have that part. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, okay? But it's not going to be the same angle, so not just like, oh, I have this angle up here, that means they're all going to be the same angle. They're not, okay? Because if this is like, remember the vanishing point is supposed to be like on a horizon line, and then if it's above the horizon line, they're angled down. If your lines or your boxes are below the vanishing, the horizontal, the horizon line, they're going to be angled up like that. Okay, so it's why it's important every time you make a new line, you really need to make sure to go back to the vanishing point. Right? It's a lot easier to readjust it now than having to go back and erase everything because you didn't go to the vanishing point. You have to do it all over again. Okay, so let's top of that one, and then I'll do these ones. So it's really going to be the same thing over and over again, except for you have to pay attention if the angles or the windows are going back into space, or oh, these ones are made really long, and then or they're going to be flat. Okay, so that's why I want to do this one. I want to do this part, and then I want to do this part up here because up here, this is the side of the building that's facing us. This side here, right here, that's the part that's going back into space, and you can see these are all angled. Okay, but see how the angle changes as it's going down, because then it's getting almost straight across because where the vanishing point would be, so it's almost just a horizontal line at that point. Okay, so for this one I have about I just say about 4 windows here because I have like these little extra little boxes and stuff. I'm just going to say 4 windows. Okay, and again, it's a lot easier if you just line up your ruler. Okay, and then just make 4 little lines all at one time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that way they're, and if you want to make, actually I can make mine the size of the ruler, because pretty much how the size I was going to make them anyways, and do the same thing. And if the lines aren't lined up quite enough, they can always go back and just erase and touch them up. I realize this off a little bit. Okay, so just make sure again that these are really horizontal here, and make those lines for here. So you're still using a ruler. Okay, you can always touch up a little bit, without using a ruler, but really whenever time you're drawing a line, a straight line, whether angled or not, okay, you need to be using a ruler or a straight edge, either one. Okay. Okay, so these windows are facing, and that's the difference. Okay, so this flattens it out. This one looks like it's going back into space, but I'm using this. And again, I know I made these windows a whole lot bigger to fit the space, just because it would look weirder. So they don't have to, I'm not looking for accuracy for exactly how everything's placed right now. It's just as long as, can you see that if it's on the side of the building, it's facing you, they're going to be regular rectangles. If it's going back into space, then they're going to be in angles. That's what I'm looking for, okay? So, and I'm not worried about the exact amount of windows or exactly how they look right now. It's more just, can you see what's going back into space and be able to draw that accordingly or not, okay? The last thing to do once you finish, so I don't have to do windows for every building. So if you draw a building, unless it's like this itty bitty tiny one back here, there's really no way for you to draw something that's like that small. By the time you draw something, you can barely see it. I'm not worried about it. But every other building here through here, you need to have at least, they all have windows, so you should draw windows. Like this side right here, this part doesn't, okay? So you have to refer back to your photograph, which makes sense, but every other one has windows on it, okay? And if you have other details like signs or light posts and stuff, you can add those in. And the other thing is like add some shading, just like with the car. It doesn't have to be a lot of shading, but see how these windows are darker? So I can just go in, and that way too it doesn't look like boxes everywhere. If you add a little bit of shading, it kind of helps kind of like make sense of some things. So like here, like I just make like these part would be shaded in, and it could just be a light shading. This part, like again, I would do shading at the very end. I'm just kind of want to make sure I mention this, because then if you do shading as you go, you have a tendency to put your hand on there and then you're going to smudge it everywhere. Okay.